Now, after watching the trailer for this new G.I. Joe game, it did not give me the confidence that it was going to be any good. I did like that it was going to include local co-op, but based on the trailer, the quality didn't seem to be there. But since you never really know if a game is going to be good until you actually play it, I figured I should at least give this one a shot. At best, I would be surprised by this game, and at worst, it would turn out exactly what I was worried about. So after spending a few hours with it, I can confidently say that G.I. Joe Operation Blackout sucks and is an abysmal use of the franchise. So let's start out with the basics. The game provides you with a campaign, and for each mission you are given the choice between two different characters. Each of the characters have a signature weapon, a special move, and different stats. This means that you will have characters that fit more of a support role or more of a tank-like class. In concept, this does play into the game potentially having some replay value by letting you replay levels as the other character, but you will probably never want to replay this game or even play it to begin with. G.I. Joe operates like a standard third-person shooter. You can fine-tune your aim, carry two weapons, throw grenades, jump, roll, and crouch to avoid incoming fire. Your character has both a health bar and a rechargeable shield. Health is gained back through pickups. All of this is pretty standard stuff. The first issue that you will notice right out of the gate is how the aiming just does not feel right. Throughout my entire time with the game, I felt like I was fighting the controls to aim properly. I played with some of the sensitivity settings, but I couldn't find one that worked the best. The aiming feels wonky, and you can never really be as precise as you want to be. This creates a lot of needless frustration since most of the combat is done through the shooting and you have to fight the controls the entire time. While the game has plenty of issues, one of its biggest offenses is how it doesn't start the game out on the right foot. You are forced to do a tutorial section that feels slapped together. There's no sense of class or good execution to help elevate the first area of the game. Ironically, this first level does set the tone for the entire experience as being disappointing, tedious, and lackluster. One thing I noticed during the initial level is how the left trigger would cause you to aim down sights, but it would get stuck there, so even if I wasn't holding down the trigger, I would still be aiming down sights. After the tutorial level, you are greeted to the cutscenes within the game. Now, I understand that the developers were probably going for a comic book-like feel for these sequences, but they felt and looked cheap, especially for a game selling for $50 to $40. I have seen better executed story sequences in indie games at half the price.
Mainframe, you survived.
Who else is here?
It's just us. We thought the two of you had been captured.
Now, I could stomach many of these issues if the regular minute-to-minute action was good, but most of the action consists of fighting boring enemies with boring level objectives. While you are fighting the controls for the shooting, the enemies do not do anything interesting. I understand that many of the enemies are robots, but they act like these mindless drones that are programmed to just rush your position and shoot at you. In the few levels that I played, I did not experience much in the way of enemy variety or any sort of tactics from them. What also hurts the shooting is the lack of any impact to your shots. The guns sound and feel weak. It feels like I'm hitting enemies with water guns than actual bullets. The mission objectives do not fare that much better. Many of the objectives revolve around you holding a position for a set amount of time, turning the level into a mini horde mode. Now, I could stomach this repetitive level design if the shooting controlled well and it was enjoyable to actually shoot stuff. But when you pair the boring level design with the boring enemies and how you are fighting the controls just to shoot accurately, the frustration is compounded. Each of the stages do feature some sort of boss fight. These fights are also boring because the bosses do not really do anything unique with them other than the fact that they have large health bars. The campaign tries to infuse some variety into the game with a tank-focused stage, but this falls victim to just being as tedious and boring as the rest of the game. The game does let you play the entire game in local co-op, but this is not worth playing, so it's a nice feature to have, but it also suffers from the fact you're not going to want to play this with anyone. There was also a competitive multiplayer component, but I was unable to try this because it's only local multiplayer, and after a few levels of the campaign, I didn't want to have anything to do with this game anymore. One of my biggest issues with the game is how it advertised that you can play as several different characters, but for the most part, all the characters play the same with slight variations. Characters will have a different special move and a unique gun, but generally they all play the same. I feel like it was a missed opportunity to not have a character or two who solely focused on melee combat. Overall, G.I. Joe Blackout sucks and it's not worth your time. As a casual G.I. Joe fan, this feels like a bad movie tie-in game for for a movie that was never released. This is a great franchise that has the foundation to make for a fun third-person shooter, but this game is an insulting use of that franchise. While the game may not look that great, the cutscenes look cheap, and there are many other problems. If the game managed to have gameplay that was actually good, that could have saved the game. But the gameplay is full of situations where you are fighting the controls every step of the way, with boring enemies paired with a boring level design. While I am happy to see other games include offline co-op options, this game forgot to build an actual game worth playing around it. G.I. Joe Operation Blackout is not worth your time. Now I want to try something a bit different with this review. Since this is a very negative video because I found this game to be awful, I want to try and end this video on a more positive note. Since G.I. Joe did not turn out to be good, I wanted to use this as an opportunity to recommend another game that could help fill that hole of providing fun co-op action. This is something that I wanted to try out with this video as a way to show more games that deserve more attention. If you have been watching my videos for a while, you will not be surprised with my recommendation. I cannot say enough good things about Door Kicker's Action Squad. This game is stellar in both single player and in co-op. It is available on the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Essentially, the game gives you a nice selection of different characters to choose from, and they all operate differently from each other. You have the Breacher as the tank-like character who can take more damage than the rest of the other characters, and then you have plenty others to choose from as well. Each of the characters have a bunch of different weapons to earn and use along with useful equipment. The gameplay features you and a buddy clearing rooms of bad guys while you are rescuing hostages. The addiction comes into play with a star system for each level you do. You use the earned stars to buy more equipment for your characters. As you complete levels, you will also earn experience points, and you can tweak some of the stats of your characters as well. Many of the early levels can be completed pretty easily, and while this game is very easy to pick up and play, you will need to plan out your attacks to really earn that 3-star rating on each level. For a game with a simple look, there's a great amount of impact to the gun sounds and the bloody deaths. The game is packed with content, and it features one of the best soundtracks that I have ever listened to, and I often use many of its tracks in my videos. If you are looking for a great single player or co-op game, do not buy G.I. Joe. Buy Door Kicker's Action Squad. And thank you very much for watching.